On the day of our wedding photo shoot, my fiancé, Jason Anderson's first love, showed up looking for him. Without a second thought, he left me behind and walked away. Before leaving, he even grabbed a cameraman for me and said, "You shoot with him. Just Photoshop me in later." I stared at the man standing before me, my ex-boyfriend, and fell into a daze. He smiled and said, "So shall we shoot?" And we didn't just take pictures. We registered our marriage, too. Now Jason regrets everything. "Who told you to take it seriously with him?" he asked. I was sitting on the couch, bored, fiddling with the hem of my wedding gown. Not far away, Jason was on the phone, his voice gentle and soft as he coaxed his first love. "Don't cry, okay? You know I can't handle seeing you cry. After all these years, I still haven't grown at all. The moment you cry, I just surrender. Wait for me at home, I'll be right there." I heard every word, and then I saw Jason hang up and walk toward me, looking anxious and worried. "Emily, something came up. I have to go take care of it," he said. I stood up. "What is it? Terminal cancer or something?" Jason's expression darkened. "Don't say that, she just caught a cold." The photographers and staff around us all turned to look in our direction, whispering among themselves. I kept my eyes on Jason. "So you know she just caught a cold?" Someone nearby snorted with laughter, and the rest, unable to hold it in, joined in. Jason glanced back at them, then turned to glare at me, clearly humiliated. Pressing his lips together, he let out a cold chuckle. "It's just a wedding photo shoot. Anyone can take them." Then he turned, dragged over a tall man at random, and pulled him in front of me. "You go shoot with this photographer. Just Photoshop me in later." With that, he rushed off. He really was that worried about his first love, so much so that he didn't even realize the guy he dragged over was my younger brother. And then, that familiar face suddenly appeared in front of me, my ex-boyfriend, Shane Miller. His presence caught me completely off guard. He still looked exactly the same. My throat felt dry. I swallowed hard, unable to speak. Shane smiled. His dark, smoldering eyes shimmered with a captivating light, elegant and confident, his expression both refined and flirtatious. With a slight raise of his brow, he gave me a soft smile and asked, "The two of us? Should we take the photos?" I was a little slow to react and instead asked, "You work here?" His gaze was distant, lips curving slightly. "Just passing by," he said, then asked again, "Wanna shoot?" I took a deep breath. Sure. Jason had gone off to see his first love, then taking wedding photos with my first love felt more than fair. Shane was surprisingly cooperative and went off to change clothes. In front of the camera, the photographer spoke in a stiff and awkward tone. "You two, relax a bit. Be more intimate." I turned my head to look at Shane. He gave a faint smile, and with one graceful motion, pulled me into his arms. That kind of intimate gesture, well, it came naturally to the two of us. We'd done it 1,000 times before. He leaned in and whispered near my ear, "So where did your fiancé go?" His large hand rested on my waist, and I instinctively nudged it slightly aside, trying not to move my lips too much, and replied with a sweet smile, "He went to see his first love." Shane looked at me with deep affection. I imagined that in the final photos, the two of us would look like the perfect, loving couple, just about to become husband and wife, just like we are now. "Next pose," the photographer instructed. "Let's get even closer. Groom, take the lead." I snapped back to attention and saw Shane's unbelievably handsome face slowly moving toward mine. He always kissed me like this, slow and teasing, each time making my heart flutter. My heartbeat quickened, and I instinctively closed my eyes. That's when I suddenly heard Shane's voice in my ear. "You free tonight?" His voice was low and clear, but the tail end of it hooked into me like a barb. After all these years, that bastard still knew how to flirt like a pro. With so many eyes on us, Shane actually had the nerve to ask me a question like that. But I was the one too embarrassed to answer. My heart pounded wildly. Overwhelmed by both shame and the rush of adrenaline, it felt like it was about to leap out of my chest. Taking the opportunity during a pose change, I leaned slightly toward him and whispered in his ear, "I have a fiancé." Shane let out a quiet chuckle, and once again wrapped his arm around my waist, the same place he had touched countless times before. His grip, just like the man himself, was forceful and possessive. Every time it made me feel like I was about to lose my mind. And here I was in public, surrounded by people. What on earth was I thinking? His deep voice pulled me out of my spiraling thoughts. "And where's your fiancé now?" I snapped my head up, meeting his gleaming eyes head on. That's right, where was my fiancé right now? I didn't answer that question. Instead, I responded to his previous one. "I'm free tonight." Shane seemed very pleased with my answer. The smile on his lips was dazzling, blinding, almost like sunlight. He hadn't changed one bit. He didn't have to do anything, yet he still managed to draw me in. Once we finished the photo shoot, the photographer praised us enthusiastically. He was practically bubbling with excitement. "You two were amazing together. The chemistry, the body language, didn't need a single bit of direction from me. Perfect execution. And the way the groom looks at the bride, full of sexual tension." I'm shocked the bride didn't get pinned down right then and there. That tension, yes, that's what I'm talking about. So much story in these shots, just incredible. He kept rambling on, clearly thrilled, until someone quietly reminded him, "Hey, aren't you forgetting that they're not actually a couple?" The photographer froze, looked at Shane, then looked at me. It took him a second, but then realization hit and he smacked his own forehead. "Right, my bad. You two don't even know each other, huh?" Shane walked over to him. "Can I get the digital copies now?" The staff member hesitated. We haven't retouched them yet." Shane pulled out a card. "I can pay extra." "Sure thing." The staff took the card without a second thought and led him away to make a copy of the files. I went to change out of the dress and checked my phone. There were tons of missed calls and unread messages, but not a single one from Jason Anderson. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. I was definitely free tonight. Outside, the sky had gone completely dark. I asked Shane, "Should we head straight to my place?" The corners of his dark eyes held a quiet, lingering smile, illuminated by the city's neon lights. His handsome face looked like it could bring entire nations to ruin. "Let's stop by the store first," he said. My mind, already spinning from everything, took a nosedive straight into the gutter. Still, I nodded slightly. "Okay." "There's a big supermarket nearby," he added. We walked there together. It was actually the first time I had ever gone shopping for those kinds of items with Shane. He used to buy pads for me all the time, so I didn't hesitate and followed him inside. Even though I'd never shopped for this before, I knew those things were always near the register. As Shane started walking farther into the store, I reached out and tugged on his sleeve, pointing at the shelf full of small boxes near the entrance. "They're right here." He turned to look at me, then followed the direction of my finger. His expression froze. My heart plummeted. "Oh God, don't tell me, I misunderstood?" Shane let out a silent laugh. "No rush, let's get groceries first." Then he grabbed my hand and pulled me along. Oh my God, my dear Lord. My jacket, my blouse, my aunt and my grandma. I was so flustered I nearly stumbled. Shane kept hold of me with one hand while pushing the cart with the other. Once we got to the produce section, he asked, "What do you feel like eating?" I wanted nothing more than to disappear. Shake his hand, say goodbye, and vanish. "Whatever. It's snowing outside." "Hot pot then," Shane suggested, finally letting go of my hand as he began loading fresh vegetables into the cart, box by box. Next came seafood, beef rolls, and lamb slices. Everything he picked was something I loved to eat. When we were almost done, he asked if there was anything else I needed. I shook my head. Then Shane turned to me and asked, "Do you have extra toiletries at your place?" My throat went dry. I swallowed. "Let's go." Shane took my hand again, just like he used to, so naturally, as if nothing had ever changed between us. At the checkout, he casually picked up 2 boxes of condoms and tossed them in with the rest of the groceries. My face instantly burned red. Later, Shane walked into my kitchen. He didn't look surprised by the brand new appliances inside. I never cooked at home, and clearly, he remembered. He didn't bother asking where anything was, probably because he knew I wouldn't have a clue anyway. He'd already bought all the seasoning and ingredients earlier, and now he laid everything out and began prepping dinner. Meanwhile, I, the supposed host, was just sitting on the couch waiting to be served. Jason still hadn't contacted me. When Shane came out and saw me staring at my phone, he let out a short, mocking laugh. "Still waiting for your fiancé to call?" "No," I said, putting my phone down and turning my head to meet his eyes. "I'm afraid he might." That was the truth. Things had already gone too far, and it was pretty clear where they were headed. I didn't want to get entangled with Jason anymore. Shane curved his lips into a gentle smile. Wash your hands. Time to eat. Steam from the hot pot swirled between us. Through the rising mist, I looked at him and felt strangely emotional. When did you come back? I asked. He placed a freshly boiled shiitake mushroom into my bowl and replied casually, a week ago. I picked up the mushroom just as Shane warned me softly, it's hot. I stared at the mushroom, then asked, did you really just happen to walk past the photo studio today? No, he said, his tone as lazy and relaxed as always. My heart skipped a beat. This feeling, strange yet familiar, only ever happened when I was with Shane. Only he could make my heart race like this. Then why did you go in? I asked. I saw you go in. That answer didn't surprise me, but it still sent a wave of emotion crashing over me. I looked up at him. Shane, do you still love me? He stood up and placed a slice of cooked beef into my bowl. He leaned closer, and that's when I heard him say, when did I ever stop loving you? Shane and I had been college classmates. From the moment we started school, he was already a campus legend, thanks to that stunning face of his. I'd fallen for him at first sight. Call me shallow, but I've always been a sucker for a beautiful face. But he was the one who pursued me. Like most first loves, our relationship was passionate and intense. We were completely in love with each other. That kind of fiery emotion, the kind that even decades later can still make your chest feel warm just thinking about it. But we didn't just love each other. We competed fiercely too. Scholarships, student council president, competition rankings, he never gave me an inch, and I never backed down either. From campus to the working world, we kept butting heads. Maybe because we both had high standards and oddly similar taste, we always ended up eyeing the same projects. We fought over everything, and eventually we fought until we broke up. I was the one who suggested the breakup. At the time, I was under enormous pressure. My parents expected me to succeed and eventually take over the family business. But my cousin, 5 years older, far more experienced, was already a major contender. I was clearly at a disadvantage compared to him. That one project I had high hopes for ended up being snatched by Shane. Because of that, the vice president position in the company went to my cousin. That was the first time I ever truly lost my temper at Shane because of competition. I confronted him and shouted, "Are you still my boyfriend or not?" Shane never backed down. "Emily, if I went easy on you, that would be an insult to your abilities." I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. "I'm tired, Shane. Let's break up." Of course, he didn't agree. We kept arguing for a while, until one day I yelled at him to get out. And he actually did. He left the country. From then on, no one was left to compete with me. That's when Jason Anderson came back from abroad. Jason and I had known each other since we were kids, true childhood friends. I knew every detail about his long, complicated relationship with Yasmin Ye. They had gotten together in high school and then gone abroad for college. Years of messy love and resentment had finally come to an end when Jason returned home and Yasmin broke up with him. At the time, our families, mine and Jason's, had started a strategic partnership between our companies, so we agreed to a marriage alliance. Why Jason agreed to it, I never really knew. What I did know was that I had lost the chance to become vice president, so I set my sights higher on the CEO position. Marrying Jason gave me more leverage, even if only by a minute. A year ago, our two families publicly announced the engagement between Jason Anderson and me. Stocks for both companies shot up, just as expected. The wedding photos we took today were also part of a public release. I guess, if I hadn't seen Jason answering a call from Yasmin Ye, we would have gone to get our marriage certificate tomorrow, but he left to find her. And even now, he still hasn't contacted me. I'm guessing he's still with her. Just the two of them, alone, an ex-boyfriend and ex-girlfriend. Anyone could guess what that leads to. And as for me and Shane, well, what happens tonight between us probably doesn't need to be said either. After dinner, Shane went into the kitchen to wash the dishes. I figured this was a good time to rebuild the relationship we'd lost for a year, so I followed him inside. "I'll help you." "You don't have to," Shane said. I stood silently by his side. Suddenly, he called my name, Emily. It was the first time he'd said my name since we reunited. My heart skipped a beat, and I quickly responded, "What?" He continued washing dishes, his deep voice steady and clear. Call off the engagement. By he, of course, he meant Jason. I rolled my eyes. I don't need you to tell me that. Jason and Yasmin have probably already slept together by now more than once. Marrying him now? That'd be disgusting. Even if it's a marriage of convenience, I want something clean. Shane tilted his head to look at me. His smile held a hint of wild mischief. I thought you liked him. The words were sharp and bitter. I gave him a dramatic eye roll. So you knew I was coming back from shooting wedding photos with him? Shane admitted it openly. Yeah, I knew. Figures. That jerk. Then you must have seen the announcement a year ago that I was engaged to Jason. Why didn't you come back and stop me? He put down the plate in his hand and turned to face me, his gaze heavy and intense. If I had come back then, would you have called it off? I shook my head. No. Back then, I was furious. Stubborn, too. I'd made up my mind if we were broken up, then that was the end of it. I had already committed to the engagement with Jason. If Shane had shown up then and tried to stop me, knowing my temper, it would have only made things worse between us. Shane knew me well. He returned to washing dishes. I stepped closer. So you weren't worried that I might have actually done something with Jason over the past year? His hand paused for a moment, then resumed scrubbing. I never thought about that, he said. I figured that bastard wouldn't push it too far. But then, all of a sudden, he put the plate down again and looked straight at me. But now, I am thinking about it. He walked right up to me. Did anything happen between you two? No, I replied. Jason doesn't like me, and I don't like him either. What could have possibly happened? Shane's gaze was as dark and deep as the night sky outside. He let out a low hum and suddenly pulled me tightly into his arms. The next morning, when I opened my eyes, Shane was lying beside me, staring at his phone screen. For a moment, I had this surreal, comforting feeling, like this wasn't a dream, like this was exactly where we were meant to be. I sat up and leaned closer. What are you looking at? I caught a glimpse of his phone screen. It was our wedding photos from yesterday. Back when our relationship was at its peak, I used to imagine marrying Shane. What I never imagined was that we'd end up taking our wedding photos under circumstances like these. There's nothing worth looking at, I muttered and reached out to press the screen down. Shane turned his head toward me. It looks great. What's great about it? I rolled out of bed and stood up, looking down at him as he sat there with messy hair and sleepy eyes. They'll have to Photoshop everything anyway. Shane clenched his jaw. There was a flicker of aggression between his handsome brows. Didn't get enough of last night, huh? My cheeks flushed red. I gave him a death glare and grabbed my waist as I headed to the bathroom. Behind me, I heard Shane laughing, cocky and pleased. He always got like this when he won. Whether it was back in school or in the business world, we'd always been evenly matched. But in this one particular arena, I never stood a chance. Every time, I ended up watching him gloat while I burned with frustration. As I reached the bathroom door, I couldn't help but turn around and shoot him a glare. You just wait. One day, I swear I'm going to kill you. Shane casually threw back the covers, arms wide, that wicked smirk on his face, every bit the devilish fox he always was. Bring it on. After washing up and getting dressed, I walked out to find that he had already made breakfast, 2 bowls of veggie noodles. I sat down and started eating in silence. As I slurped my noodles, Shane said, "Don't forget to break off the engagement." I gave a short nod. After breakfast, I went straight to the office to talk to my parents. This was my dad's company, one of many under the Sioux Corporation. Inside the CEO's office, after I finished explaining everything, both of their faces turned stormy. My mom was the first to speak. "So what are you planning to do?" My dad looked up at me as well, waiting for my answer. "I'm ending the engagement," I said without hesitation. "No, scratch that. We're not just ending it. I want to call it off. There's a difference. I'm not going to make it easy for Jason Anderson. After what he did? Gross. Why should I let him save face? He doesn't deserve that." My mom nodded in satisfaction, her eyes full of approval. "That's my daughter." "Agreed. We call it off," my dad said, though he gave my mom a helpless glance and shook his head with a smile. "She's exactly like you." "Well, of course," my mom said proudly. "She's going to build her own empire. She doesn't need to marry into one." I had come to realize the same thing. Relying on others wasn't the way forward. I was better off relying on myself. Wake up, both of you, my dad said, scoffing. You are the empire. He was clearly jealous. I figured I'd leave the sweet talking to Mom. After that, we discussed the plan. First thing tomorrow, we would go to the Andersons and officially end the engagement. Then I buried myself in work for the rest of the day. It wasn't until after 8 p.m. that I finally got home. As I stepped out of the elevator, I was surprised to see Shane standing right outside my door. I walked over quickly. Why didn't you go inside? Shane stood with his arms crossed, leaning lazily against the wall, one brow slightly raised. I don't have the passcode, and you never registered my fingerprint either. How am I supposed to get in? He could be so sarcastic sometimes. I grabbed his hand and pulled him over to register his fingerprint on the lock, then gave him the code. You can come in any time now. All of a sudden, Shane pulled me into his arms. His scorching kiss fell hard, pressing me back against the door. Seriously? This eager? I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him back. Only in that moment did I truly realize just how much I had missed him during our year apart. Maybe we'd still butt heads in the future, still argue and compete, but I didn't want to ever be separated from him again. Emily, I vaguely heard someone calling my name, but all I could hear was Shane's breath brushing past my ear, making it hard to tell if it was real or just my imagination. Suddenly, Shane pulled away and pressed me tightly into his chest. I looked up and followed his gaze, and there it was. Jason Anderson's furious face, coming into view like an explosion. He charged at us like a ticking bomb. Shane released me and stepped forward. The moment Jason swung his fist, Shane caught his wrist effortlessly, and with his other hand punched Jason square in the face with brutal force. Jason hit the ground hard. Like a man possessed, Jason scrambled up and lunged at Shane again, cursing under his breath. You son of a bitch. You touched my woman, I'll fucking kill you. But Shane kicked him back down with zero hesitation. He planted his foot on Jason's stomach and looked down at him, his voice cold and commanding. Emily doesn't belong to you. Jason coughed up blood, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, and glared at me with venom in his eyes. Emily, you cheating bitch, behind my back? Before he could finish, Shane pressed his foot down hard again. He wasn't holding back. You know what you've done. Watch your mouth. Shane finally lifted his foot and turned back to me. He took my hand, used the newly registered fingerprint to unlock the door, and pulled me inside. The door shut behind us, just as Jason started pounding on it furiously. I was annoyed and about to go kick him out, but Shane cupped my cheeks and kissed me again. My focus snapped back to him. I didn't even know when the pounding stopped. Maybe I'd tuned it out completely. After a year apart, Shane's pull on me was stronger than ever. It wasn't until we were eating that I realized Jason must have left at some point. I had no intention of ever seeing him again, but I still had to face him to formally call off the engagement. My parents told me there was no need. I didn't have to do it myself. Later, my mom called to let me know it was done. We handled it, she said. Now we just wait for the right time to release the news. She added, I never liked that Jason kid anyway. But let's not completely burn bridges with the Andersons. We still need to keep things civil for the sake of appearances. I understood. You can't afford to make enemies lightly. I get it, Mom. Just let Dad know I'm fine. Honestly, I'm doing great. I heard the pride in her voice when she laughed. Oh, Mom knows you're doing great. My daughter, all about business now. Makes me proud. I made a non-committal sound, a little guilty. The truth was, I wasn't exactly laser-focused on building a career. That's not why I didn't care about the crap Jason pulled. Sure, I really didn't care about him anymore. But the real reason? Shane was back in my life. And lately, all I could think about was spoiling him a little more. Then my mom's voice came again. Still, don't get too wrapped up in work. Eat well, have fun, date if you want. Life isn't just about your job. Don't worry, I replied with a little smile. There was no way I wasn't going to date. I promised. My mom was silent for a moment. So, is there someone already? I cleared my throat. Mom, I have to go. Talk later. I hung up quickly. Suddenly, I felt arms wrapped tightly around my waist from behind. A certain someone, like a devil in disguise, had snuck up on me again, planting a trail of soft kisses along the crook of my neck. The engagement was practically over already. I was ticklish and instinctively shrugged my shoulder, trying to avoid his teasing kisses while playfully taunting him. Nothing happened. Shane paused for a beat, then, without warning, bit me lightly. His hands, long and strong, slipped boldly under my shirt. I grabbed his wrist, turned, and pulled him over to the couch. With a push, he dropped down obediently and waited. I liked him like this, so cooperative, so deliciously easy to mess with. But my phone had other plans. Just as I was getting ready to ruin him completely, my ringtone blasted through the room. It was Jason Anderson. He actually still wanted to see me? Shane's long arms clamped around my waist like iron bars. "You're not going." "I just want to see him one last time," I said, cupping Shane's face and kissing his lips gently. "There's something I need to do." Jason had the nerve to humiliate me like that. If Shane hadn't shown up at the photo studio that day, Jason was seriously planning to find a random person to take the wedding photos with me. I couldn't let that go. I wouldn't let that go. Jason had picked a quiet cafe for the meeting. It wasn't very crowded, a good place for a serious talk. The moment I sat down, he cut straight to the point. "That guy, what's going on with him?" "Emily, we've been together for a year, and I haven't even held your hand." "And you were making out with him. Don't forget, we're supposed to get engaged." Jason pressed his lips together and gave a slight nod. "I admit, I shouldn't have walked out on you during the wedding shoot. I shouldn't have gone to see Cece, but Emily, you know what Cece and I had. It ran deep. Now that she's back and came looking for me, how could I just ignore her?" He sighed heavily. "Cece's pregnant." My brain stalled for a second. Then I heard him add, "But the baby's not mine." My expression must have said it all. "Huh?" Jason looked at me with serious eyes. "But don't worry, you'll still be Mrs. Anderson. No one can replace that. It's just, I can't leave Cece alone. She's pregnant and all by herself now. I'm all she has." He ran a hand through his hair, exhaling sharply. Then, as if nothing had happened, he looked me in the eye. "As for what happened between you and that guy, if it was just once, I won't hold it against you. But don't let it happen again." Then he suddenly asked, "That man, he was the one I pulled over to shoot pictures with you that day, right? I remember now. This was all just revenge, wasn't it?" "I admit I made mistakes too," he continued. I couldn't listen to another word. I cut him off. "Didn't your parents tell you?" He paused, clearly caught off guard. "Tell me what?" I sat up straighter. "If they didn't, then let me do it." "Jason Anderson, I'm not marrying you." His eyes narrowed. "What do you mean?" I smiled. "I mean, I don't want your worn-out leftovers." Jason shot up from his seat. "Who are you calling leftovers?" Heads turned in the cafe. Realizing the scene he was making, he quickly sat back down and lowered his voice. "Emily, you know exactly what kind of arrangement this engagement is. Don't act like a child. And for the record," he added with a sneer, "I'm not marrying Cece. I, Jason Anderson, will never marry a divorced woman. As for me and him, yeah, I did sleep with him. But didn't you also sleep with that photographer? So, I guess we're even." I stood up, grabbed my purse, and walked toward Jason. He thought I was about to back down. He even tilted his chin slightly, waiting. "Jason, do you know why I agreed to meet you today?" I asked, smiling. Jason smiled too. "Emily, we grew up together. You've always been someone who puts the big picture first. That's what I've always admired about you. You're the only one fit to be Mrs. Anderson." "No," I said, my smile widening just a little. "I came here to give you something." Before Jason could ask what, I slapped him hard across the face. Perfect. Now everyone in the cafe was looking at us again. Jason's face turned red, then pale. He stared at me in disbelief. "You think we're just going to pretend you didn't humiliate me in front of everyone at the photo studio?" I said coldly. "If you ever show up in front of me again to disgust me, I won't care how long we've known each other. I will make you regret it." I don't know if he was stunned or scared, but he didn't react right away. I was already out the door before he caught up, grabbing my wrist tightly. "Emily, get lost," I snapped, yanking my hand free and climbing into the car waiting by the curb. Shane started the engine. "All done?" I nodded. He took my wrist, gently running his thumb back and forth across it. Then, looking suddenly serious, none of his usual laziness in sight, he asked, "So, can I go visit your parents now?" His tone was calm but full of meaning. I knew what he meant. If he hadn't lost that project a year ago, hadn't lost the vice president position at Shoe Group, we probably would have already met each other's families by now. Still, I felt a flicker of worry. Do you think we'll break up again someday? Just because we get too worked up? I won't, Shane said firmly, without hesitation. His large hand wrapped around mine and gave it a soft squeeze. I know what you're worried about. I've thought about it too. I used to ask myself every day after our breakup, should I have just let you win? Should I have stopped competing with you? Then he looked into my eyes. Emily, I can let you win. I want to let you win. For the rest of my life, I'd be willing to. But the truth is, I'm not the only one in your life, and if I hold back just for you, it won't help you at all. I nodded. I know. When we broke up, I wasn't mad at him for not giving in. I was mad because I lost to my cousin. I was frustrated and took it out on Shane. That was on me, and I could admit it now. Shane, I won't threaten to break up with you again. Ever. Wow, he said with a smirk. Hearing that from you is rare. Back then, my parents didn't even know I had ever dated anyone, let alone that Shane existed. My feelings were complicated. I kept thinking, when I finally beat Shane once and for all, then I'd bring him home to meet my family. But it had only been a year. Looking back now, all that pride and competitiveness felt laughable. My parents were naturally impressed with Shane, and they quickly arranged a dinner with his parents to finalize our engagement. Later, when it was just the two of us, I couldn't help but sigh. If we'd gotten engaged back then, who knows, maybe my grandpa would have been so happy, he'd have given me the VP position. The thought got me excited. Do you think there's a chance my grandpa might just name me CEO directly? Shane gave me a look. What are you even talking about? Are you marrying me or signing a business merger? I scrunched my nose. Okay, that came out wrong. This isn't a merger, it's a power couple alliance. He ruffled my hair. I'm gonna go run a bath. Join me. I sprang to my feet. Nope, I still have something to finish. Can I borrow your laptop? Before he could stop me, I slipped into his study. No way I was joining him for a bath right now. I knew his laptop password. It was my name and PIN plus his birthday. A little cheesy maybe, but I'd always liked it. I had my eye on a new project over the past few months. Originally, I'd planned to team up with Jason on it, but now I was taking it for myself. I wasn't trying to snoop, but while I was on Shane's computer, I happened to notice a folder. It was named after me, with the date. I couldn't help but click it open. Inside the folder were pictures of me from the past year, along with files on Jason Anderson. Even detailed records of when Jason first got back in touch with CEA, how many times they contacted each other over the past year. Shane had it all. He even knew exactly when Cece returned. I remembered Shane once told me that his return had coincided with Cece's. I'd thought he was just cool and composed. Turns out he had been tracking everything going on with me the entire time. He never showed up back then, only because Jason and I had just announced our engagement, but hadn't made any serious moves yet. That's why he held back. Shane walked into the room and saw me looking through the photos and documents. He didn't look the least bit awkward or guilty. I gave him a sidelong glance. If I had really married Jason, would you have shown up and tried to stop the wedding? Shane cleared his throat, then said firmly, "That Jason Anderson is trash. What's wrong with me crashing the wedding?" I waved him away. Out. I've got work to do. I was determined to win this project. I originally thought Jason would be too busy clinging to Cece to care about it, but apparently I underestimated how ambitious he really was. We met again at a business gala. Jason showed up with Cece on his arm. Neither of them knew how to hide their emotions. Everything they were thinking was written all over their faces. Jason looked smug, like he was trying to say, "You didn't appreciate me, and now I've moved on. It's too late for you to regret it." Cece's eyes practically screamed, "I gave you a whole year, and you couldn't hold on to him." Jason still loves me. God, what did I ever do to deserve running into two idiots in one night? I wanted to laugh out loud, but that would have made me look immature, so I held it in. They walked straight up to me. Jason glanced around me and scoffed. "You came alone?" He sneered before I could respond. "Oh right, I forgot, he's just a photographer. No way someone like that would be allowed at an event like this." He let go of Cece's arm and stepped close to me, lowering his voice. "Regretting it yet?" calling off the engagement for a photographer? Emily, I can still give you another chance. If you just apologize now, you can still be Mrs. Anderson. I turned my head to Cease and smiled sweetly. He just told me if I apologize, I can still be Mrs. the Anderson. Jason's face turned a shade of green. Cece's expression was a masterpiece, like watching a soap opera in real time. What the hell are you talking about? Jason hissed, retreating back to Cece's side. Don't listen to her, she's twisting everything. Cece looked clearly embarrassed, but she still clung to Jason's arm with a desperate sense of pride. Later, when I went to the restroom, she actually followed me in and cornered me. You better stay away from Jason, she warned. I smiled, amused. And what gives you the right to say that, Mistress Status? When she got back with Jason, he and I were still engaged, in case you forgot. Cece lifted her chin. Jason has always loved me. The one who isn't loved is the real side piece. I didn't even know how to respond to that. Her values had left the planet entirely. She and Jason really were a perfect match. Cease, I said, if Jason truly loved you, then why did he leave you behind and return to the country alone? Her jaw tightened. She glared at me with all the stubbornness she could muster. If you want to keep lying to yourself, go ahead, I said with a shrug. Not my problem. Honestly, I'd be thrilled to watch them crash and burn together. Chaos makes for great entertainment. Oh, and just so you know, I added helpfully, that man who supposedly only loves you? He told me straight to my face that he would never marry a divorced woman. I reapplied my lipstick and walked back out like nothing happened. Events like these weren't usually Shane's thing. Everyone said the heir to the Shane Corporation was famously low profile and mysterious. Especially during the year Shane was abroad, the rumors about him in our circle grew more dramatic by the day. Some said he'd given up his position as heir to the Shane Group to personally go overseas and expand their international markets. They praised his vision and ability, calling him a standout among his peers. The Shane family, they said, clearly had a worthy successor. Others, however, claimed he left the country heartbroken over a failed first love and needed emotional rehab. Regardless, even though Shane hadn't shown his face in the social scene for a year, stories about him were everywhere. At tonight's gala, people were once again bringing him up, mostly the ones trying to form some kind of connection or partnership with this new generation powerhouse. Someone asked, who was Shane's first love anyway? As I walked back into the banquet hall, I overheard Jason talking to someone about Shane and his mysterious ex. The person chuckled. So Jason, are you trying to work with Mr. Shane too? Jason didn't answer, but his smile said enough. The other person nodded knowingly. What a surprise. Jason was trying to partner with Shane? After just getting into a fistfight with him, that poor guy must be sick of seeing Jason's face already. After the gala, I said my goodbyes to a few of the heavyweights in the room and headed toward my car. Jason caught up with me. Cece wasn't with him. Emily, he called out as he approached. I know you've been eyeing that Yukon project. You know I've been interested in it too. I thought he was about to shamelessly suggest we team up again, but instead he said, I'm willing to hand that project over to you if our engagement continues. What do you say? I glanced past him and spotted Cece standing just outside the hotel entrance, staring this way with a conflicted expression. But she didn't come over. Before I could respond, Shane's voice cut through the night air. Babe, you ready? Jason's face twitched at the sound, but when he saw the car Shane had pulled up in, he let out a mocking laugh. Emily, you're with a guy who has to chauffeur you around? I really don't know what you see in him. He stepped a little closer. Oh, and one more thing. I'm not sure if you've heard yet, but Shane from the Shane family? He's back. I looked over my shoulder at Shane. Yeah, I know. Already slept with him. Jason didn't catch the sarcasm. Still looking smug, he said, I'm about to close a deal with him. With Shane Group backing me, you should know which one of us has more value to offer you, me or that photographer. He smirked. Okay, fine. I admit I don't take better pictures than him. Then he added, I'll give you 1 week. Think it over. Jason gave me one of his cryptic looks, then walked away. I turned to Shane, completely speechless. Once we got in the car, Shane asked, Where did your parents even find that idiot to matchmake you with? I felt personally insulted. A week later, Jason asked to meet again. I knew I shouldn't waste any more time on him, but I just couldn't resist. A bit of chaos always spices up a busy schedule. It's rare to have an idiot around to mock. This time, he invited me to a vineyard. The moment I sat down, he poured me a glass of red wine. Try this, I made it myself. I looked at him with an amused smile. Wow, impressive. Jason flushed red. For 1 second, he looked genuinely bashful, then immediately returned to his usual smugness. Emily, so, you've made up your mind? I gently swirled my glass. So you spent this whole week doing absolutely nothing, just waiting for my answer? He looked deep into my eyes. Of course. No wonder, I said with a nod. He paused. No wonder what? I landed the Yukon project. I offered him a sweet smile. If you hadn't wasted the whole week doing nothing, I probably would have had a tougher time securing it. So, thanks for stepping aside. Jason opened his mouth, but I didn't give him the chance to speak. Thanks to your inaction, I said smoothly, you saved me a few minutes of effort. So honestly, I should be thanking you. Jason wasn't stupid. He understood what I was really saying. It only took me a few minutes to beat him. His brows drew tight. What's that supposed to mean? I tilted my head and smiled. It means you're not qualified to be my competition. Jason stood up abruptly. So you're saying you don't plan on continuing our engagement? I gave him a look of mock admiration. Wow, you're so clever. Emily, you're playing me, he snapped, his pride clearly bruised. But just as quickly, he recovered his usual smugness. It's just the Yukon project. You really think I care? I was only being lenient with you because we grew up together, but you asked for this. He stormed off after dropping that dramatic line. Honestly, that idiot's theatrics completely wiped out any lingering exhaustion I'd been feeling lately. I'd been chasing this Yukon project for a long time. I went through several rounds of revisions, beat out multiple competing firms, and finally signed the contract 2 days ago. Big win, drama on the side, life was really treating me well. I went to find Shane to celebrate, but unexpectedly, his parents were there too. Turned out they were in town to publicly support Shane's official appointment as the new CEO of Shane Group. Shane's mom took my hand with a warm smile. This guy insisted on taking over as CEO before marrying you. Guess he wanted to prove he was worthy. Like any elite family, the Shane household had its own internal power struggles. I just hadn't expected Shane to return after a year abroad and immediately secure the CEO position. Clearly, his departure wasn't just because of our breakup. Sure enough, after his parents left, Shane confessed, honestly, going abroad was mainly for the company's development. But it just happened to be at the same time as our breakup, and I couldn't handle both at once. So I had to leave first. He cleared his throat and looked down at me with puppy dog eyes. But I didn't want to break up with you. That's why I started looking into your fiancé behind the scenes. I rolled my eyes. So you're the one who leaked the story about being heartbroken by your first love and needing to heal overseas? Shane nodded sheepishly. It was for you to hear. Oh, how generous of him. Then why did you block me? I glared. You could have at least left some way to reach you. What was I supposed to do? Forget you completely? There was no way I was letting that go without giving him hell for it. So in the end, I said, crossing my arms, becoming CEO was more important to you than I was. Shane gave me a look that cut right through me. If I couldn't even win the CEO position, would you still want to marry me? He knew me too well. You have high standards, he went on. You want a guy who's hot, has a great body, keeps a low profile, cooks well, and is insanely capable. If I had lost to any of my older brothers, you would have dumped me. The more he talked, the more it sounded like he was just bragging. I remembered when we first started dating, I'd told him my ideal type was the classic CEO from romance novels, flawless in every way. I'd said my future husband needed to be that perfect to match me. Apparently, he'd taken that way too seriously. And now I was the one feeling awkward. I was just talking nonsense back then, I muttered. I was young and dreamy, okay? Shane straightened his tall frame with a smirk. So now I don't have to act like some untouchable prince anymore? Obviously. You're not some immortal being, I said, rolling my eyes. Then he suddenly leaned in close to my ear. Does that mean I can start going to the bathroom in front of you? Get out, I snapped. Later, Shane took me out to celebrate my win with the Yukon project. But we didn't even make it past the lobby before we ran into Jason again. He was at the front desk, pleading with the receptionist. "Please, just 10 minutes with Mr. Shane. I promise it'll be quick. Let me see him, just once." I pulled Shane along with me. Jason looked genuinely surprised when he saw us. "Emily? You came to see Mr. Shane too? Are you doing this on purpose just to mess with me?" He gave Shane a full once-over, then sneered. "You're really proud of being a man who just plays second fiddle to a woman, huh? I'd suggest you get lost. A place like this isn't for someone like you." As soon as he said that, someone approached and bowed deeply to Shane. "President, I'll remove him immediately." Jason's smug expression froze. He stood there stupidly, staring at Shane like he'd just seen a ghost. After a long pause, he finally managed to speak. "President?" "You're," the person beside him responded. "This is our newly appointed president of Shane Group, Mr. Shane." Jason's eyes widened in disbelief. "You're Shane?" His face turned ashen. He swallowed hard several times. You're really Shane? You're the one?" Then he looked at me, eyes wide, completely dumbfounded. But I thought he was heartbroken from his first love. When did you two get together?" Shane casually pulled me into his arms and said, "Let me introduce you. This is my first love, Emily, and I am hers." There was pride in his voice. Before Jason could even respond, he was already being dragged away. "Mr. Shane, please, let me explain." "Emily, help me talk to him. We grew up together." Shane muttered under his breath. If he hadn't brought that up, I might not even be this pissed. He shot a look in Jason's direction. "What, growing up together makes you special?" I was still watching Jason get hauled away, and Shane nudged me with his shoulder. "Still looking? That entertaining?" I nodded. "Very. Watching an idiot become part of our little play, kind of fun." Shane scoffed. "Fun, my ass." He was clearly no longer playing the aloof CEO. He was just being his ridiculous self. After we got in the car, Shane leaned toward me, his expression serious. "Emily, I want to tell you something." "Go ahead," I said, turning to face him. "I'm not actually a cold, overbearing CEO type. Not cool at all. Do you still like me?" His eyes were full of hope. I almost burst out laughing but held it in. "Yes, I do." He cleared his throat and added, testing the waters, "What if I'm a little clingy in relationships? Would you still like me?" I bit down on my lip to hold back a grin and nodded. "Yes." He exhaled in relief and hugged me tight. "You're the best." Honestly, in that moment, I barely recognized him, but I loved it. It made things more exciting. When Jason showed up again, he looked like he'd hit rock bottom. The arrogance, the pride, it was all gone. "Emily, please say something to Mr. Shane on my behalf," he begged. "Everyone in the industry knows I pissed him off. No one wants to work with me anymore. Even my own family's ready to cut me off. I'm desperate." He tried to play the childhood friend card again. "We grew up together. Please, just help me. I'm begging you." I shook my head. No. He had humiliated me in front of everyone at the studio and still had the audacity to ask for help? Did he think I was that pathetic? "Don't contact me again," I said coldly. "I don't want to see you." I got up and left. Jason didn't reach out again, but I did happen to see him one day on the street, arguing with Cease. "I gave you so much money," he shouted, "even bought you a house. And now I'm asking you to sell it and help me out, and you won't even do that?" Cece wrapped her arms protectively around her belly. "That house and money were gifts, and didn't you go around telling everyone you'd never be with used goods? So what are you doing now, begging a used woman for help?" "I'm not helping you, Jason. I feel nothing for you anymore. I regret ever liking you. Just seeing your face disgusts me. Get lost." She shoved him away and walked off. When she looked up, she saw me. Cece lifted her chin and walked straight over. "Miss Shu," she said, "thank you for the warning back then. I've got money in hand now." Cece said lightly, her hand resting on her stomach. "And a baby on the way. Life's been pretty carefree. As for Jason, if you still want him, be my guest. I sure don't." I scoffed. "You don't want him? Well, neither do I." Soon after, Cece left the country again. She sold the house and took the money Jason had given her. It was more than enough to live a comfortable life abroad with her child. I didn't have much to say about her decisions. It had nothing to do with me anyway. Because Jason kept pestering me, Shane finally had enough and publicly released evidence that Jason had maintained shady contact with his ex while still engaged to me. The Lu Corporation's stock price plummeted. They immediately issued a statement cutting all ties with Jason. Now Jason was a pariah, someone no one wanted to associate with. Whatever happened to him after that was his own problem. A week before Shane and I registered our marriage, he handed me an agreement. Not only that, he transferred all his assets to my name. I wasn't exactly shocked, but I still asked, "Why are you giving me everything?" Shane looked at me calmly, his handsome face as open as ever. "Because I want to give it to you. You like this kind of stuff, don't you? From now on, whatever you want, I'll give it to you." "Haven't I told you already? I'm kind of in love." My eye twitched. I forced a dry chuckle. "Kind of, huh? This doesn't seem like just kind of." He suddenly looked defensive. "Hey, you said even if I was a little clingy in love, you'd still like me. You have to stick to your word." "If you really enjoy competing so much," I teased, "then let's just be like we used to be. But I won't go easy on you." Shane grinned. "Good, but there's one thing, whatever I win ends up in your hands anyway. Doesn't that make it less fun? Less exciting?" "Emily, do you think I'm boring?" I shook my head and wrapped my arms around him, patting the back of his head. "You silly man," I said with a soft laugh. "Don't overthink it. I love you just the way you are." He immediately straightened up like he'd just won a medal. Confidence restored. On the day of our wedding, my grandfather officially handed over the position of CEO of the shoe group to me. Sure, the way I handled the Yukon project helped solidify his decision. Okay, I'll admit marrying Shane may have influenced it just a little. I really wanted to earn everything on my own, but what could I do? My husband was just too capable. Some things were simply beyond my control. At the ceremony, Shane leaned close and whispered in my ear, "I feel like crying. What should I do?" I turned my head, half exasperated, half amused. "Then cry." Just like that, his eyes turned misty. He pulled me tightly into his arms. "Wife," he murmured, voice trembling, "my dream finally came true." I laughed softly against his chest. "And what dream is that?" Shane kissed the top of my head. "My dream," he said, "was to spend the rest of my life as Emily Shu's one and only."